I'm going to show you how to make a fabric yo-yo. Now, it's not the kind of yo-yo that you use, that you buy, that you can use to do tricks like walk the dog or something like that. This is, I'm not sure why they call it a yo-yo, but that's what it's called, and it's basically like a little fabric rosette. We're going to start with a piece of fabric. This piece of fabric can be any kind of fabric that you can sew through. It could be cotton, it could be thin felt, it could be a piece of cut up t-shirt that you no longer wear. It just has to be thin enough fabric that you can get a needle through it. Okay? And you are going to cut it into a circular shape. So you can use something like this to make your circles. And I like to make two circles, one a little bit bigger than the other. So this is just a little bit bigger than this. So basically I'm going to start with the larger circle, and you can use a pencil or you can use a Sharpie marker because you're not going to see it anyway. So I'm going to use a pencil. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use a Sharpie marker. That way you'll see it better on camera. So I'm going to draw my circle, okay? And now, and I'm using a light Sharpie marker. You don't want a thick, heavy line that's going to, possibly show up on the other side. So, and then I'm going to draw my other circle just inside it. Okay, so I've got two circles. Now, I'm going to cut on the outermost circle. Okay. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention, when you draw your lines, draw them on the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side of the fabric. The right side of the fabric is usually the more colorful, brighter side. The wrong side of the fabric, the colors aren't as bright. It's kind of faded looking. Maybe you don't see a pattern at all. So that's the side you want to generally make your markings on. Okay, so now we need a needle and thread. You can use a matching thread, but I am going to use a brightly colored thread so that you can really see my stitches. And now we are going to take a needle, and I have a nice big needle here. We're going to get a nice long piece of thread. I like to go from my shoulder all the way out to the end of my other arm. And that's because you don't want to run out of thread, but you don't want it to be too long so it doesn't get tangled. So now I'm going to thread the needle. Okay. And I am going to make a knot. There are lots of different ways to make a knot in thread, but this is one trick I'm going to do. We'll go over making knots more in other lessons, but I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to make a knot. Okay, make sure the knot is nice and big. I've got a knot here. Okay. And now I'm going to take my circle of fabric, and I'm going to fold the edges of my circle over on the inside line just a little bit, and I'm going to start stitching. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to go in, starting on the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm going to go around and around all around the edge. Now, I'm making what we call a running stitch. A running stitch is a stitch that just goes up and down, up and down. So we are not going around the edges of our fabric. You can do a couple stitches at a time, okay? So I'm going down, and then I'm coming right up from the same place I went down. If you wind up, oops, and you want to pull it so you don't get any tangles. You want to make your stitches about the width of your pinky nail. No wider than that. If your stitches are too wide, it's going to be messy looking. And if they're too small, it's going to take you forever to sew. So this is a good width. So you're going to keep doing that. Now, whatever you will do not go around the edge of your fabric to make your stitch. If you do that, you're going to have to take it out and start over because it's not going to do what it needs to do. So you're going to keep doing this. Once you get good at it, you can gather up a bunch of stitches on the needle at once. Okay, I've sewn around most of the outer edge of my circle now, and I just want you to notice I'm starting to run out of thread. And look what's happening. Also, it's starting to bunch up. Now that's good. You actually want that to happen. So you can start gently pulling the thread as you finish up your yo-yo, and just do those last couple of stitches so that you wind up exactly back where you started from. Okay, you don't want to cross over where you started. You just want to go right up to maybe a tiny bit away from that initial knot that you started at. And then you want to gather it up gently. Now at this point, if you have the wrong side or the dull side facing out, you'll just want to gently flip it around so that you have the pretty side on the outside, and you're going to keep gently gathering it up. It's going to start to look like a little tiny Barbie doll sized shower cap, and you're going to keep pulling. Now be gentle because you don't want to break your thread, okay? And you want to keep pulling until it's all gathered up and it looks like a little pouch. Maybe that's why they call it a yo-yo, because it's this thing hanging on the edge of a thread. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to flatten it out, and our opening is going to be in the center. And again, we're going to pull it tight, and that's how it should look. Now, for extra credit, if you want to be fancy, you can take a button. You can sew a button in the center or a nice round bead, and then you can actually layer these. You can do a slightly bigger one and a bigger one after that, or a smaller one, and you can stack them on top of each other. In my next lesson, I'll show you lots of different things you can do with these fabric rosettes or fabric yo-yos. But right now we're just going to knot it off. I'm going to put the thread in through here, and then we're going to make our knot on the back of the yo-yo by making a loop. Looks like the letter Y. I'm going to go in through the center of the letter Y. Looks like that. And then put my thumb in the center and pull. I'm going to do that again. Twist. Go in through the center. Put my thumb in the center and pull. Now we can cut the thread. If you were going to sew a button on, you would sew the button on before you cut the thread. Okay? And now you have a little fabric yo-yo.